but he was so sure he had stumbled on an important mystery that he had to get going, and quickly folding his accessory equipment, he descended the ladder and made his way out. 20 minutes later, consumed with curiosity, he was developing the new shots in his hotel bedroom. What Cliff saw when he compared the negatives taken yesterday and today caused his scalp to tingle. Here was a slant indeed, and apparently no one but he knew. Still, what he had discovered, though it would have made the front page of every paper in the solar system, was, after all, only a lead. The story, what really had happened, he knew no better than anyone else. It must be his job to find out. And that meant he would have to secrete himself in the building and stay there all night. That very night. There was still time for him to get back before closing. He would take a small, very fast infrared camera that could see in the dark, and he would get the real picture and the story. He snatched up the little camera, grabbed an air cab, and hurried back to the museum. The place was filled with another section of the ever-present queue, and the lecture was just ending. He thanked heaven that his arrangement with the museum permitted him to go in and out at will. He had already decided what to do. First, he made his way to the floating guard and asked a single question, and anticipation broadened on his face as he heard the expected answer. The second thing was to find a spot where he would be safe from the eyes of the men who would close the floor for the night. There was only one possible place, the laboratory set up behind the ship. Boldly, he showed his press credentials to the second guard, stationed at the partition passageway leading to it, stating that he had come to interview the scientists, and in a moment was at the laboratory door. He had been there a number of times and knew the room well. It was a large area roughly partitioned off for the work of the scientists engaged in breaking their way into the ship, and full of a confusion of massive and heavy objects, electric and hot air ovens, carboys of chemicals, asbestos sheeting, compressors, basins, ladles, a microscope, and a great deal of smaller equipment common to a metallurgical laboratory. 3 white-smocked men were deeply engrossed in an experiment at the far end. Cliff, waiting a good moment, slipped inside and hid himself under a table half buried with supplies. He felt reasonably safe from detection there. Very soon now, the scientists would be going home for the night. From beyond the ship he could hear another section of the waiting queue filing in, the last, he hoped, of the day. He settled himself as comfortably as he could. In a moment the lecture would begin. He had to smile when he thought of one thing the recording would say. Then there it was again, the clear train video of the chap Stillwell. The foot-scrapings and whispers of the crowd died away, and Cliff could hear every word in spite of the great bulk of the ship lying interposed. "Ladies and gentlemen," began the familiar words, "the Smithsonian Institution welcomes you to its new interplanetary wing and to the marvelous exhibits at this moment before you." A slight pause. "All of you must know by now something of what happened here 3 months ago, if indeed you did not see it for yourself in the telescreen," the voice went on. "The few facts are briefly told. A little after 5 p.m. on September the 16th, visitors to Washington thronged the grounds outside the building in their usual numbers, and no doubt with their usual thoughts. The day was warm and fair. A stream of people was leaving the main entrance of the museum, just outside in the direction you are facing. This wing, of course, was not here at that time. Everyone was homeward bound, tired, no doubt, from hours on their feet, seeing the exhibits of the museum and visiting the many buildings on the grounds nearby. And then it happened. On the area just to your right, just as it is now, appeared the time-space traveler. It appeared in the blink of an eye. It did not come down from the sky. Dozens of witnesses swear to that. It just appeared. One moment it was not here, the next it was. It appeared on the very spot it now rests on. The people nearest the ship were stricken with panic and ran back with cries and screams. Excitement spread out over Washington in a tidal wave. Radio, television, and newspapermen rushed here at once. Police formed a wide cordon around the ship, and Army units appeared and trained guns and ray projectors on it.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.